In the northeast, where the tumour first popped up, their population numbers have dropped by 85%. So really wiping them out quite quickly in some areas. But some areas on the west coast, they've actually found one little population that hasn't got any disease at all. So hasn't found it there yet, hasn't made it there just yet. But the disease can remain dormant in a devil system before physically manifesting for up to 18 months. So it could be that it's actually in the population just dormant and we're not seeing it just yet. So it's a bit of a nasty thing. So at the moment we have a good 47 devils here in captivity. We've got quite a few kids. We had 11 babies this last year. Devils breed every February and March. So we've got our next sort of breeding season coming up in the next few months, which will be fairly exciting for us. The devils are already, some of the youngsters who's coming into their first breeding or season are also already starting to get fairly excited about things. So they're just preempting their teenagers. Gestation period's only 18 to 24 days. Very, very quick. Devil babies are only born the size of a grain of rice or smaller. Very tiny children. So not long really required in mum there. And the rest of the development, like most marsupials, happens. So she can give birth anywhere up to 20 to 30 babies when she first gives birth. Lots of tiny little things. They'll travel to her pouch where she only has 4 teats. So the first 4 that make it there and latch on are the ones that survive. So often, because they're so tiny, and that travelling distance for them is a good sort of 10 centimetres. I know it doesn't seem like much to us, but when you're only the size of a grain of rice, it's a pretty big distance. Often they'll miss the pouch area, go off to the side, not quite make it there. They actually dehydrate really quickly and they need that humid environment of the pouch to keep them going. So the main reason they give birth to so many is also that she can multi-sire, so she can mate with several males over the breeding season, and it gives her a chance for the biggest and strongest babies, and so genetics, to make it to the pouch there. So she gives birth to a lot just so a few can survive. From there, the babies will often will fall out of the pouch. If she's struggling in body condition, there's not a lot of food around, that sort of thing, she may actually remove 1 or 2 babies from the pouch, from the teats, so that she knows that she's not going to lose too much body condition herself. From there, the babies will start to pop out of the pouch, and she'll start having to ride them around on her back when they're about 3 months of age, and they're about small kitten size. So they really do grow quite quickly, and by the time they're 6 months of age, they're about this big, like the kids next door, and they're able to bite through and break bone already. They do disperse at about anywhere from 7 to 10 months of age, depending on the mum and the babies. She'll basically go off to get food one night and won't come back, and they'll have to look after themselves. They don't reach sexual maturity until they're 2 years of age, and that's when they start to breed, but they don't actually reach their peak body weight until they're about 3 years of age. So because they only pass away at 5 or 6, it's still only about 3 or 4 breeding efforts they get. So not a lot of reproductive turnover there. You're trying, aren't you, miss? We had a brother and sister pair once who figured out how to get into buckets. One of them had grabbed their handle and pulled that way, and the other one had grabbed the lid of the bucket and pulled the opposite direction. Luckily these kids haven't figured out how to work together yet. So generally the girls are smaller than the boys. In this enclosure you really can't tell males from females unless you know them individually. Our old girls in here have got quite fat, basically. They're on the verge of morbidly obese in devil terms, which is why they're only getting a small feed today. But they do pick on the boys. The boys, although bigger in body size, haven't got as much of a growl on them. In a devil's world, the louder you can growl and the bigger you can make yourself seem, the more food you're going to get and the more females or males you're going to get to mate with. So the girls often actually beat up the boys quite a lot. That's why the girls are all fat. So were there any questions at all, guys, about the devils, the disease, or any of the other animals you've seen around so far? Yep.
How do they identify their partner?
They have several mates, so they don't have one partner at all.
Alright,
the devils, what will happen is the females come, when they come into an estrous cycle, their hormone level changes and they become quite subdued rather than the aggressive feisty buggers that they are normally. What will happen then is the males have to be quite boisterous. They have to grab a female by the back of the neck, drag her into a den for breeding. From there, he'll often try and keep her in the den. Because they can multi-sire, and they can breed for up to a week. What he wants to do is keep her in that den for a week, often losing well over half his body weight during that breeding period. So he'll keep her in the den, but often he'll get challenges from other males on the outside wanting to get in and breed with his females. So he'll have to fend them off. When he does that, it leaves his bum open and exposed to the females. The females, because they want to have the best genetics possible and the best chance for their babies, actually do want to breed with that boy who's on the outside. So she'll scratch and bite at his rump and beat the absolute crap out of him to try and get out of that new boy. So that's why you'll notice that the boys in particular...
Yeah, we noticed one up the top there in the cage.
Yeah, he's got a big bum ripped out of him. So the boys in particular have quite a lot of scarring and fur loss on the rump and tails, and that's just from that natural process.
I guess March that's worse, is it?
Yeah. At the moment they're all pretty good. Devil's fur doesn't tend to regrow particularly well, so once it's been pulled out sometimes it doesn't grow back properly, which is why some of the oldies look a bit mottly. But you'll notice this old girl also doesn't have a lot of fur on her tail. She's a big fat girl. You can actually tell that she's morbidly obese because she has a fat roll where her tail joins onto her body. So very, very fat devil there. But the devils, when we pick them up, we actually pick them up by the tail. Devils store all their fat in their rump and tail region like a kangaroo, but they also have quite thick, strong, muscular tails. So also like the kangaroos, they can support their own body weight on their tails. So we pick them up by the tail to keep fingers further away from the bitey end, but they get quite intelligent. This little girl, every time we come into an enclosure, if we haven't got the meat bucket with us, or there's two of us, or there's a hessian sack or something weird and different, she'll actually go into a den or into the corner, tuck her tail underneath her bum and sit on it so that we can't get to her. So doing that over her years has actually rubbed the fur off on her tail. She's a bit of a muppet. Are there any other questions, guys? Yep.
Do they hunt the prey?
They can hunt. As you can see, they're not particularly agile animals, and they don't hunt in a pack. So if they're to hunt a creature, they usually go for the weak, the injured, the old, the young. If they're hunting a healthy animal, they wouldn't be able to take down anything that's more than about 9 to 10 kilograms. So fairly limited in their hunting range. But at the moment, there's more than enough food around usually to feed them on other stuff. What was your question, buddy? What was your question, mate?
Is her ear bleeding?
I think she's had a leech on it just before we got down here. Bleeding as much as I am, I think. No? What, fatty?
What? Yeah, you've had.
In the summer, the kids actually fight more over the water bowls and who's going to lay in them after a feed than they do over the food. Again, they're like the wombats. They actually overheat quite quickly, so it's very hard for them to cool off rather than heat up. And the devil's way of cooling off is to jump in their water bowls. Alrighty guys, well if there's no more questions, that's pretty much the end of the tour for you today. If you do come up with any questions when you're wandering around, please feel free to pop up and ask.